All right. There's the mic. Pull up the script, recording software, and we are good to go in 3, 2. Hold on. Commissioner. Got it. I will be right there. I have to go. There's, an issue downtown. Run the intro. Hello, citizens. It is I, the Kyng-Pin, of Spades, and welcome back to another episode of King's Chaos. We got a great show coming up today. I've done a whole bunch of research on all the upcoming projects that Marvel and DC are putting out. I'm talking video games, movies, TV shows, everything. Throw out a few examples. Wandavision just came out. Wonder Woman 84 recently released. The Spider-Man 3 rumors. The Snyder Cut that's coming out. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. But this is too much for me to do alone. So I'm going to have to call in a friend. Fire up the guest signal. Hello, Jeff. Thank you for joining me today on such short notice.
Thank you for inviting me, Kyle.
No problem. I needed a strong, well-knowledge guest of superhero movies to help me discuss all these great things we've got coming up in the coming years.
I'm ready.
Oh, I hope you are, because we've got a lot. Number one, for those of you who don't know, one of Marvel's television shows on Disney Plus just released, that being WandaVision. And the first 2 episodes released at this point 2 weeks ago, and at the time of recording this, the 3rd episode just dropped today, which we have both viewed before recording, correct?
Correct.
So, without going into spoilers, because I don't want to be that guy, but what did you think of this episode?
I think it's starting to get a lot more interesting because now I feel like, wait, so we're not allowed to give spoilers?
I don't want to give, like, heavy spoilers. Like, I don't want to reveal, like, I think we're justified in saying that the thing is now in color.
Okay.
Because I think that's easily can be seen, because that's how the 2nd episode ended, with it turning to color. So I wouldn't say that's a huge spoiler, but it's something that does happen.
I guess I'll say we're starting to find things that aren't supposed to be in the show or in Wanda's hypothetical world. I presume, but I thought there were some things that were kind of getting to Wanda, and some things that were in the show that weren't technically supposed to be there, and people were realizing it. So that's kind of what I think was the main thing about this episode.
Yeah, as the episodes go on, we're getting more and more details into this world, seeing what's really going to be going on. And at this point, I believe there's going to be a total of 9 episodes in the season, meaning we only have 6 more to figure out what's going on.
I think so. I actually didn't know. That's kind of actually interesting. You said 9 in total or 9 more?
9 in total. So 6 more after the episode that just came out today.
That's actually pretty interesting. They stopped it at 9 and didn't go to 10.
Yeah. I mean, based on the way they're jumping through time, not actual time travel, but the way the show is set up, it sounds like it's gonna stop at a certain error before it ends. So like at like say 80s, say episode like 6, it's gonna start in one error and then keep going into that error. It looks like, if the times are correct, because any further than present, you go into future, and nobody knows how TV is gonna be in say 2031. Right.
Yeah, the show is. I honestly really love the show. I the first episode, when I watched the first episode, I was like, "What's going on?" Because I mean, I had an idea of what it was gonna kind of be like, like a black and white sitcom,
right?
But I didn't know. I thought they were gonna introduce like the color and like what's actually happening pretty soon into it, like kind of like like a dual thing. Like you saw what was happening in the real world, and you also see
Right.
what's happening in Wanda's mind or Wanda's world. And I was surprised when the first episode went to like just the black and white sitcom, and then that was pretty much it. And
Yeah.
then, but the thing that threw me off though, like like when you have the bar on like Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever you're watching, you
Yeah.
have like the time bar.
The
It
timestamp.
went,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like 3/4 of the way down there, and then it just goes to color and started doing it, and I was like, oh yes, I can't wait. I thought it was going into like the colored version,
Right.
and then it's just like several minutes of credits.
Yeah, that's my only thing with this show. It's like you're just looking at like, oh, a 37-minute episode, but it's like, no, it's a 30-minute episode and 7 minutes of credits and no
Yeah.
end scene, no
Oh,
end
yeah.
credit scene either.
Yeah, I tried looking for an end credit scene, and I was sad that there
Yeah.
wasn't any. But
I mean, coming out on a week-to-week basis, it's not that necessary.
yeah,
Like, it's different with movies which come out like months in between.
right. Yeah, I didn't expect it for like TV shows, or at least Marvel's TV shows. But
Yeah, exactly.
I do appreciate their high quality in their filming and effects and stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I'm watching a lot of like breakdowns because I'm not too smart with catching everything, but so I'm looking at all the Easter eggs and behind the scenes stuff. And like for those first 2 episodes, the ones set in the '60s era, they were using effects that they would have used at that time. Like it wasn't all CGI; a lot of it was practical.
Right. Yeah. That was I found that pretty interesting that
Yeah.
they were sticking to like the era that they were kind of going for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they filmed in front of for some episodes. I don't know about all of them, but they filmed some episodes in front of a live studio audience.
Oh, really? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, they had actual people sitting behind the camera reacting to that. So, from what I gather from that, the laughs you hear are actual genuine laughs from people, not the pre-recorded tracks that we're so used to hearing.
Oh, wow. That's kind of I actually appreciate that more.
That is
Uh,
commitment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually surprised. I don't know. I feel like Marvel tries to like be very like secretive of their projects, so I'm surprised
Right.
they like showed it to people before that they aired it.
Very true. I mean, okay, I'm saying that this is a joke and for legal reasons. None of it, this is all purely a joke, but they probably like kept them in like a secretive building until the episode's released so they don't say anything.
Yes, imagine. It could have also been like people that worked on the show and that
Very
kind
true.
of haven't read the script at all, and they were just kind of
Yeah.
just chilling there.
That's true. Because I've been watching this YouTube channel where it's like these people, they go into like all film and nerd stuff. They do breakdowns. But they were interviewing the guy who was, the ad breaks in between the show, right? The 3
Oh,
ads they did.
yeah, that threw me off. I was like, wait.
Yeah. Exactly. But they interviewed the male actor who was in those ads.
Okay.
And it said they don't really it said something like they don't really give them a script. They just tell them, all right, this is what you're going to be doing. And then that's it. Like they won't give them a whole script. They'll give them like, okay, this is your one line. You don't need to know anything else.
Right, yeah. That's Marvel's secretive side.
Yeah, exactly. But
Uh,
the bigger, like this is all, well, WandaVision is amazing. 3 episodes in, I'm hooked. But
Yeah.
more and more, the whole point of it is it's supposed to tie into 2 upcoming movies, which I'm really excited about. Spider-Man 3, which I believe don't have a name for yet. And then also Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, these are 2 really big projects that are coming out fairly soon. Doctor Strange is said to come in... No, I'm sorry. Spider-Man 3 is set to come first in December of 2021. That's the projected date. I don't know how much that is going to stick up because of, things
Right,
going
yeah.
on in the world. But then Doctor Strange is set to come out after that in like March of 2022. And if you've been living under a rock or just aren't caught up, this Spider-Man is rumored to be a huge multiverse, Spider-Verse kind of thing, like they did with the animated ones at Sony. But we're speculated to have Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man's return, and it is confirmed that we are having Doc Ock from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, same actor, and Jamie Foxx, I believe, is the actor who played Electro.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Those two are confirmed to come back, to my knowledge, but that just gives you a clue on how big this movie is supposed to be.
Oh yeah, I cannot wait for this upcoming phase, especially the movies of. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to the movies and the shows for this phase.
Because we also have Loki and Captain America and the Winter Soldier coming out, which have had trailers released.
Yeah, or actually Falcon, and the Winter Soldier. That one I really want to see. I actually really appreciate how they kept the same actors as in the movie, the show. That just like makes it so much better. I would have been so upset if they had different actors playing them in the show.
Yeah, that would be weird because it would still be the same universe, but you would have this disconnect of this is the same character but not the same guy.
Right. Yeah. I've always kind of like wasn't a fan of how they would have different actors for like the show and like the movie because it kind of like throws me off in a way. Like it's like for the Flash movie, I've like watched the show. I've watched pretty much all of it except for like the last season or two. And like I spent like so many years watching it and so I knew that Flash. And then when they brought the one to Justice League, then I was like, oh, this is a whole new Flash, so I got to learn a lot more about him. So that's what I mean.
Right. Did you see the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover they did on CW 2 years ago?
Yes.
Where they brought the Justice League Flash into... I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know what that means for the future of the DCEU, because from what I've heard, they're going to do something with like a Flashpoint movie in 2022 that might bring all of this stuff together, meaning like all the Keaton's Batman, Bale's Batman, the CW shows all in one universe. But I think that's still up to speculation at this point.
I actually never heard of that, but I cannot wait if that happens.
Yeah, because they released a lot of promotional stuff at DC Fandom last year, which was, I believe, August, I think. Okay. And they had a promotional picture of the Flash and Batman behind him. But the picture that they showed, it had a big yellow insignia on it, which looked like Keaton's Batman. Right. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do with that. I mean, it's interesting to see what both companies are going to do in the upcoming months, because 2020 was a pretty big setback. We practically didn't get to my knowledge, I don't think we got a single Marvel movie last year, did we?
No, I don't think so. And wasn't there only one that was scheduled for that year?
We were supposed to get Black Widow.
Yeah.
But I don't believe... Well, obviously it never actually came out.
Right.
But I don't think, as far as when all this hit, there was anything else announced. Although that doesn't seem right, because a Marvel movie would be announced months in advance. Like, if 2020 movies would be announced, like, late 2019.
Right. Yeah, I mean... I only knew of Black Widow. I almost said Wonder Woman, because that did actually come out in 2020. Yes. Or no, 2021 did it come out. But it was...
I don't know if it... Let's do a quick little research. WW84 release. Because I know it went straight to HBO Max. It went straight to streaming, because, theaters are up in the air at this point. But it actually came out on Christmas of 2020. So it went live on HBO Max on Christmas of 2020, I think, because I don't actually have that, but I really want to get it because DC has a whole bunch of stuff going to HBO Max. First and foremost, probably the biggest thing fans are talking about would be the Snyder Cut.
Oh, yeah.
Which I, for one, didn't know too much about. I actually thought it was released already. Mm-hmm. I thought it came out like summer 2020. But apparently that was just an announcement of it coming out. But apparently it's not yet. It's coming out soon, I think. Sometime this year, I believe. But I, for one, am pretty interested to see what it's like because, and we'll probably get into this later, but now not only does Zack Snyder have $30 million from Warner Brothers to do this movie, but he also has insight that he wouldn't have had this other version not been released prior.
Right. Yeah, I think it's kind of good in a way because he now sees what fans didn't like and didn't think worked in that movie, so now he knows what to not include
Exactly.
in
That's
his
my
version.
biggest thing. Because he knows people didn't like this, this, and this, but they love this. So more of this, less of this.
Exactly. Was the Justice League was the movie where it was Justice League that they did the CG for Henry Cavill's chin, right?
For his mustache, yes, I believe that was Justice League.
Okay, I feel like that's like his main priority. It's like the the one either
Number one, fix Cavill's mustache.
Yes. No, that would I think it's a lot of stress and pressure on him though, because I feel like a lot of fans or DC fans are like depending on this movie to be like the previous versions, like Redemption, like kind of saying like we actually still have a little bit of hope left. Like if Zack Snyder can pull this off, then then we still have hope for future DC movies with him directing and creating it.
Right, because as we know, Marvel is really taking the crown when it comes to expanding universe movies. Like even Wonder Woman 84 didn't have great reviews. It only got 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's from the tomato meter, not the audience score. But that's okay. But if we compare it to like other Marvel movies, we can already tell it's a lot lower than average.
Right. Yeah. I think that actually brings up a point, which is funny because I know there was like this kind of rumor, or not really rumor, but everyone agreed on was that Marvel had the best movies and DC had pretty good shows because Marvel didn't really do too many shows, and they thought that DC was like, if they had to choose one, DC was like leading in shows, and I think Marvel and Kevin Feige and Disney were like, we're not taking that anymore. We're gonna
boom, WandaVision.
Yeah, we're gonna crush DC with shows now, so we're gonna rule in movies and shows. But...
Exactly. Like I had written out this idea. Like I wanted to do a Marvel versus DC episode of this show for a while, and I had like each one has their own benefits. Marvel has movies, DC has video games, and now with WandaVision, I might have to change that opinion. Because don't get me wrong, I love most of the CW shows. Flash was really good. Yeah. I've never watched Arrow. I really want to get into it, but it's so long that it's going to take a lot of time. Supergirl's pretty good. Legends of Tomorrow is good, but it seems, as most TV shows are, that with each season, it's getting a little more and more rocky.
Right. Yeah. I feel I do like all the DC shows. I know a couple of my friends aren't a fan of their later seasons because they thought it got cheesy, but I mean, I don't look too much into it. I enjoyed them, but I think Marvel's concern, like, or their main goal for their TV shows is not quantity, it's more like quality. So they're trying to probably up all the effects and the visual like aspects of the show because I mean CW is pretty cool with like the Flash and all, but their effects aren't like anywhere near movie type effects.
Oh yeah, well, you can tell in certain areas, like you're like, that is 100% CGI. And then we had that whole trend of people like YouTubers bashing Supergirl for its effects because it was pretty clear where most of the budget for those shows were going. Like they put a lot of it more into like the Flash than they did Supergirl because, you know, one performed higher than the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've also seen Corridor Crew on YouTube.
Yes,
I know they were breaking down the. If it wasn't just a Supergirl show, it's probably like a decent amount of the CW shows.
Oh yeah, they broke down a few.
Yeah, they were laughing at all the Supergirl's effects, but I feel bad though because I feel like they do have a limited budget, and I know if they were given like a bigger budget, they probably would have upped the effects.
Probably, yeah.
But I mean, it's not too bad. The one thing that I think is pretty bad in the shows is in the Flash when he like is running and it's like not like the close-up version of him running because that's obviously him, but like when they're running in the streets and then they have like the fight scenes when they're running and then you can clearly see that they're all like CG characters.
Yeah, those don't look great, but like you said, they are on a limited budget, so you have to cut them some slack, but It's rough to watch at some points.
Yeah, I still enjoy it though.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
think
no,
it
it's
takes
still
much away from it.
it's still fun to watch,
Yeah,
and maybe like the twists aren't great, but as somebody who doesn't really read the comic books but has a pretty good knowledge of them, to see like little Easter eggs, to watch the twist like firsthand and not know it's coming because I haven't watched or haven't read the comics, it's still fun even though, the plots and storylines have teetered off a little bit.
exactly. Yeah, I pretty much love all of the DC. Well, I don't even know. Have I watched all the DC shows? I know I've watched I watched all of Arrow. I watched probably all the Flash seasons except for the last two. Um, and then Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow, I think, are the two that I'm really behind on.
Right.
Um,
And there's also Batwoman, which just released
mm,
2019, and then Black Lightning too, I believe, is also in that same universe.
Black Lightning, yeah, I watched. I think I watched all of that, unless there was a new season that just recently came out.
I
But
haven't been keeping up with that one too much. I kind of like, usually every time these things come out, I'll miss like one episode of the season, and then I fall behind, and then I have to catch myself up once they come out on like Netflix or something.
exactly, I think that's honestly better. It's fun to
Sometimes,
binge
yeah.
watch the entire. Sometimes it's so I like watching it up to date, and then
Right.
there's also points where like it's like a year after the season aired and it's on Netflix, and then especially when I'm starting a new show, I like
Right.
when I can watch a lot of it at the same time, so I'm like constantly in the story, and
Yeah,
I don't have to
exactly.
wait for those cliffhangers.
Yeah, like because when I like when there's a jump between like season ending and season starting, and then I have to get, like, the problem with me and TV shows is between seasons I have to get into it again. I have to refresh myself, like, okay, this happened, this is who this person is, this is what this guy can do. And it's just like when I take that break, when I miss an episode to when I catch up, I'm like, okay, quick refresher, what happened at this point, what's going on, who are these people? And then it kind of takes me out because I have to, like, remind myself what's going on.
Right.
So it's the binging versus watching live is a whole nother like debate that we can get into another time. But it's hard sometimes because each one has their like pros and cons of waiting and not waiting,
Exactly. Yep.
which is what I think like WandaVision is going to do very well because it's 9 episodes and they released the first 2 in the same week. So it's only like what, an 8-week period. So there's not too much of time between start and finish that you would have to constantly remind yourself of who's who.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for this episode, I really liked. I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want to spoil, but I really liked the ending because it really kind of is transitioning into what I want to see in the show,
Yes.
and what like the whole actual plot of the show or the series is gonna be, and
Right.
I cannot wait. Um,
Finally getting answers.
Yeah, finally getting answers. Actually, for WandaVision, I want to know if you agree. Do you think Marvel's going to strategically do this where they're going to have a break from their movies, have all of the Marvel shows that they announced airing their first season first, and then once that's done, then they have the movies? Or do you think they're going to do some of the movies in the middle of a show running?
That's a good question because, like we said before, WandaVision is said to tie into Spider-Man 3. Not that Spider-Man 3. We don't touch that one. The new Spider-Man, MCU Spider-Man 3, which is set to come out in December. So WandaVision will be done, the first season of WandaVision will be done long before that comes out. So it's a
Right.
possibility that will be the first MCU movie since Far From Home, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh man, Far From Home was the latest one, wasn't it?
I think so because we had Captain Marvel early 2019, then Endgame, and then Far From Home in like
Oh, right, yeah.
summer 2019, and I don't think anything's released since then.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, it makes sense because I know Spider-Man Far From Home started off how like Endgame ended, so
Right.
it was kind of like that, kind of tying together into the
The epilogue,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah, exactly. Um, I do, however, yeah, I like when I was saying the question, but I do, I don't think they're gonna have like, say for WandaVision, right? I don't think they'll have Wanda in a new movie if the first season is still going on. I think if
Right.
they had a new movie with Wanda in it, like you said, Spider-Man or Doctor Strange, that season will be done. But I do see them having like Falcon and the Winter Soldier going on through that, as long as they're not in the movies.
Right.
Yeah. So I could see that
Because,
happening.
yeah, exactly. Because I think movies coming out this year, as far as I know, the ones that I know that are speculated to come out this year, I'm not going to say anything certainty because everything's still up in the air at this point. But the ones that I know are planned to release sometime this year are Black Widow and Spider-Man, which, as far as I know, Black Widow is an origin? No, not an origin story, but it's more like a Black Widow solo film.
Right. Yeah.
So there would be really no reason to have Bucky or Falcon in that one. So I
Mhm.
think they can have those run at the same time, and then Spider-Man in December, which Wanda or Scarlet Witch will be free to do because her season will already be over.
Yeah, I think it was Black Widow is more of like that film that a lot of the fans wanted to see. They wanted to see
Right.
like because Black Widow I feel like is one of the uh one of the few characters of like the original Avengers that actually we don't know much about her past.
Right.
So I feel like her and maybe Hulk because we never got like a Hulk with Hulk movie with Mark Ruffalo.
Right. We had the
Um,
first one with Ed Norton.
right. So I'm curious to see what they do. I know this is probably going to satisfy some fans with Black Widow's backstory, and I did actually see something about Mark Ruffalo and a Hulk thing. Not like an official, but like a
No.
speculation. He was on like some late show. I don't know if it's James Corden or Jimmy Fallon or Stephen Colbert, one of them.
Right.
Um, he was saying the host was asking him like, so is there anything left for Hulk, or is his like story did it end with Endgame as Smart Hulk? And he was saying, I don't know, Kevin Feige, are you going to like have me do a movie? And he said that Kevin Feige went up to him and asked him after like Endgame or around there, like he asked Mark Ruffalo, "Do you think there's any story left for Hulk?" So I'm wondering if that's kind of like a hint towards
Yeah.
they at least are thinking about it potentially.
Right.
So I would definitely love to see that.
Oh yeah, definitely. That'd be cool too, because there's a lot coming out in the MCU, and we're going a lot on MCU. I don't think we're giving DC enough light, but we'll get to them in a second.
Yeah.
But there's a lot coming out that I'm really excited for, and I think a lot of that stems from WandaVision because I was kind of like, okay, MCU, I'll watch them. It's a cool story, what now? But WandaVision having this whole multiverse thing open, bringing back Doctor Strange for a second movie because I absolutely love Doctor Strange. Great character,
Me too.
great actor. But having all that whole storyline for WandaVision to Multiverse of Madness and whatever happens in between, that stuff I'm really interested for.
Me too. Yeah. I cannot wait for uh the Doctor Strange movie and the stuff in
Yeah.
between and like what's kind of building up for this next phase that's coming up.
Right.
Um
Exactly.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm really excited for. And I think Doctor Strange is probably going to be one of the new main Avengers.
Right.
Just like I feel like anyone that was newer that was helping in Infinity War and Endgame, those newer characters are going to be like the new original Avengers type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like there's a lot of speculation that all this multiverse stuff can uh, open up licensing deals pretty much in which
Mhm.
they can bring in characters that Marvel previously didn't have licenses for. Because I believe Disney recently did go through with it and buy Fox, if
I
I'm
think they
not
did.
mistaken.
I think they did.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then we can hope to see maybe mutants, Deadpool, all that kind of stuff in the MCU because they technically. I'm not a legal person by any means, but I think Disney buying the company that owns them gives them the licenses.
Yeah, I would assume so as well. Uh, Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. I'm pretty excited to see what happens. Um, and you said the shows you said were mutants, and what was the other one?
I threw out Deadpool, which I'm pretty
Oh,
sure is also mutant, but
yeah,
just
Deadpool. Like they already confirmed a new movie, I think, just
oh, they
recently.
did.
Yeah, the Deadpool 3.
Nice.
So I honestly, if I'm gonna pick like certain characters that I would really love to see tie in with the MCU, is probably Deadpool. Uh, I
Yeah.
would love to see his dynamic, like the dynamic between him and the Avengers, because Deadpool's pretty much just comedic, and he's also
Right.
not that good of a guy.
No, not at all.
So
But that's going to be interesting to have because Marvel movies are generally PG-13 rating,
yeah,
but Deadpool R rating. So to see that is going to be see how they handle that because you to make Deadpool fit into the PG-13 of all the MCU movies, you're going to have to take away some of that comedy fourth wall break of him. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah. I feel like that is one issue that they're or an obstacle that they're gonna have to overcome.
Right.
Uh, I don't know. I actually don't know how they might be able to do that because you already now know him for two movies as like a certain character, and so they would kind of have to alter him a little bit for that kind of stuff. But
Right.
um,
Exactly.
I mean, in a way, they also did have Logan, which was rated R, wasn't it?
I
And
believe
so
so. Yeah.
yeah, I think they had that, but the X-Men with Hugh Jackman wasn't rated R, so they might be able to find like a kind of
Parallel.
parallel between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's something good to look at. So we spent a lot of time talking about the MCU, and in a Marvel v DC themed episode, I feel it's not fair if we don't shed as much equal light onto the DC EU. So we talked about Wonder Woman 84. We brushed up on the Snyder Cut. We mentioned the uh, speculated Flashpoint movie that's going to be coming out in 2022. But I think what we should dive deeper into, more so over everything, is obviously the Snyder Cut. That is probably the biggest project that's coming out for DC this year, in addition to Robert Pattinson and the Batman. If
oh
that
yeah.
is still set to release this year, because I know he had some health complications later last year that might have pushed production back, but I don't know. It still could come out this year.
Right. Yeah. I cannot wait for the Batman movie.
Yeah,
I love the trailer. Have you seen that one?
uh, I think that they've only released like one, right, so far.
I think it was like one. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have seen it then because
Yeah.
it looks really good. I really like the way it's designed, like his bat suit is designed.
Yeah. I think it's
I
like
just oh, go ahead.
I think it was like armored. I was just gonna say.
Yeah, stuff like that, and it looked like the emblem on the chest like was able to come out and be used as like a batarang, maybe.
That would be pretty sick if
Yeah,
that was like the case.
yeah. I don't know why. I just wasn't a huge fan of Batflack's design. I don't know why, but there was something about it that was really off-putting. It just didn't seem like Batman to me. It's something just felt off. I think it was how thick the bat symbol was, or like how light the gray tones were. I don't know. There was something about it that really put me off. But this new one, this slimmer, more armored design, which I guess those are kind of two contradictory statements, but I like this Pattinson design much better. Obviously, nothing for me is going to beat Christian Bale's design or even the Dark Knight movie itself. I still hold that to like the best superhero movie ever. But this one is a pretty close second for me, at least.
Yeah, I think I think this one's going to be pretty interesting. Especially, I feel like they're trying to take the new DC movies and kind of really amp them up to something that is really good. Obviously, they want to compete with Marvel, so they want to try to release their new movies the best that they can. Uh, I think in the trailer, though, I have to say, can I mention what happens in the trailer? I mean, is that really considered
I
a spoiler?
I think we're fine. I think we're fine in that aspect.
Okay. So I I loved the fight scene, the glimpse of the fight scene that they showed in the trailer. It showed Batman being pretty ruthless, and
Right.
he did not like stop or show any mercy. He just
Yeah.
really like, what was it, like one of the criminals that he was beating up or whatever. He like repeatedly slammed in the face,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is pretty sick.
That one was brutal, but I like it too because the way Pattinson, the way Pattinson like was seen as Bruce Wayne in the trailer, it looked a lot more brooding, more not depressing, but a lot more like dark than like say Christian Bale's is, because he had like that hair pulled down, sort of like the smoky eyes, stuff like that. It just felt more like this was a man who's grieving from his past and trying to bring vengeance. Because, like, Keaton, Bale, Affleck, they all had, like, okay, this is just a rich man with seemingly no deeper trauma. Pattinson's movie, The Batman, looks like it's going to dive a lot more into, like, his past and how that affects him as an adult. But that's just my speculation. I haven't really heard that from anywhere, but that's what it's looking like to me.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely looks like, or the way even the trailer looks and is designed, it looks a lot more brooding, and just the overall like coloring and the look of the shot looks very dark, and it looks very depressing, but pretty cool in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
So I am really excited to see how they incorporate that all into it, or what they're going for the movie in that direction. I cannot wait. For some reason, that is probably one of the new DC movies that I am really looking forward to see.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that they have to pull this off because they've had so many Batman movies, so many Batmans, that they need to like get one down and keep it with that one.
Now, here's the one thing I'm asking that this movie avoids at all cost. We do not need to see Bruce Wayne's parents get killed again. We've seen it in Keaton's version, in Bale's version, in Affleck's version. We've seen it in the Joker movie that came out. We do not need to see it again.
I think they should like have like a comedic reference to that in the Batman movie. Like like I feel like somebody should ask Bruce Wayne, "How did your parents die?" And he should be like, "Oh, everybody knows that," or something like that. I
feel like for this particular movie that would be out of character, but that is something like definitely one of these should say. Like, come on, we've all seen it before.
Yeah, I could totally I could actually see it happen in this movie if it's more of a type of comedic humor where they're not trying to be comedic. Like someone could ask him seriously, like a reporter, like, do you know like what happened with your parents or whatever like that, and he could be like, stop as like everybody knows about it by now, or like something like
in that context that could work.
Yeah, or like I mean they could have like a new type of movie where they bring the Justice League back together, and if he's still the Batman, like they could have a new character ask about Batman or whatever like that, and then like Superman could be like, everybody knows about that.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Like just call back to it. Like, we know what happens. Here's saying that it happened.
Yeah.
That's all. Because like one thing we didn't see in when Spider-Man joined the MCU, and I apologize for going back to that, but we didn't see Uncle Ben die like we did in Raimi's Spider-Man and the Amazing Spider-Man series. So now, granted, the MCU has slightly different storylines, so there's a chance that he might not have died at all, and we can only speculate on that until we get confirmation in later movies. But in all the Batman movies so far, we've gotten confirmation. We've seen, they get killed in the alley. There's no, other than in Keaton's Batman, where it turned out the person who became the Joker killed his parents, there's really been no like switching it up. It's always been the same storyline. He's scared. He leaves play. They go down the place knowingly called Crime Alley, but that's an issue for a whole nother day. They get killed. He becomes Batman. Really no diversity there. It's always the same story throughout all the movies.
Right. You know what I would love for like a Batman movie to have? is have you ever played or have seen like the story for Batman Arkham Knight, the video game?
I only played slightly through Arkham Origins, but I was also a lot younger at the time. Not a lot younger. It came out like 2015, I believe.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
because I was not me now, I wasn't into it as much. If I played it now, I probably would play it through to completion, but back then I didn't have any sense of like what was going on.
Yeah, well, I highly recommend Batman Arkham Knight. That was like supposed to be the conclusion to like the
Right.
Rocksteady Batman. It was by Rocksteady, right? I'm pretty sure.
Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham. No, wait. Yes, Rocksteady made Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight. Arkham Origins, which is the only one I played, was made by a different studio, which I forget the name of, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, Batman Arkham Knight was supposed to be the conclusion or the ending to the Batman Arkham games.
Right.
And I thought that was so good, Batman Arkham Knight. Like the storyline, it was like I probably one of the best story lines I've seen in like a superhero type game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, that is something I would love to see in a live action DC film.
Right.
I could tell you kind of what it is if you want to know, or I can not say anything. But
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I am interested because it is a lot of game to play through in order
Yeah.
to get the full story.
Right, all right. Spoiler warning for anyone who's listening. Batman Arkham Knight is basically, as in the title, there's this character called the Arkham Knight, and he's kind of a villain. He's mainly a villain, and he's going around kind of terrorizing or getting himself involved in things he shouldn't be. And he really dislikes Batman and Bruce Wayne. And so Batman cannot figure out who this is until the end. And it's really great because this is one fight scene where it's supposed to be like it's towards the end, like a boss battle between Batman and Arkham Knight. And Arkham Knight pretty much knows Batman. He like
Right.
really knows who he is. And so like he's kind of confused Batman. He's like, what the heck? So when he finally gets a hold of the Arkham Knight, he kind of like beats off his like mask, which is kind
Right.
of like an Iron Man type HUD that Arkham Knight has, but it ends up being Jason Todd,
All right.
the Robin, which got taken by the Joker, and Batman or Bruce Wayne thought that Joker had killed Jason Todd, and he was really mad that Batman or Bruce didn't pursue trying to actually find out what happened, and then he got a new Robin fairly quickly after, so he was really upset about that. And
Oh,
then
wow.
it kind of ends as how the Arkham Knight he becomes Red Hood. And so then you can even play as Red Hood later on, but I thought that was a really cool story. Obviously, it's a lot better when you're playing it because all the extra detail in the middle.
Right.
But that'd be something really cool I'd like to see with like a Batman film. That'd be really cool.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And now here's the thing that I find interesting because recently at the latest DC fandom, DC announced 2 video games coming out: Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly to me, Gotham Knights doesn't take place in the Arkham universe.
I'm not sure.
So the Arkham series that all those games were based in, Gotham Knights is not part of that. However, the Suicide Squad game that's coming out is a part of that series.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
cool.
both of them I believe are meant to be multiplayer games where you can choose between different characters to play through online with your friends, I believe, and then, violence and hilarity ensues. But that's an odd thing to say. But only the Suicide Squad game is made by Rocksteady, and that is the one that's going to tie into the Arkham series, which ended with Arkham Knight back in 2015. So this is 6 years of jump between these 2 games, I believe.
Yeah, I am kind of hesitant about the Suicide Squad game because I'm either going to really, really love it or not love it as much.
Right.
Because if the game is primarily and heavily dependent on you playing with other people, it's going to be hard because at a certain point, like playing online and just doing that kind of gets old, especially if you don't know who the people are.
Right.
But for like the Batman Arkham games, it was you could play single player. There were some maybe co-op type, mission things that were separate from the story that you
Right.
could participate in. But I really want them to have a Batman Arkham styled game, but with more DC characters. How great like Arkham Knight looked and how great it was. I want them to have that with like the Justice League or maybe Flash or Superman or like
Yeah.
something that high quality of a game, but they bring in new characters. That'd be really cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. That'd be a really cool thing to see. And what was I going to say? I don't remember. But like that would be really cool to see a bunch of different co-op characters in multiplayer through like different things. Because the thing is, I think what they're going to do, I think what Rocksteady and other companies making superhero games are going to do in the future is, now that the Avengers video game came out and it was met with somewhat mixed reviews because it relied heavily on that grinding games as a service kind of deal. I think they're going to look at that, see, okay, nobody really loved the way this game was put out. Let's try to change the formula around a little bit and make a game similar to that you can do single or multiplayer and then move on, or not move on, but make it different so it's not an obvious in-your-face microtransactions game.
Right. Yeah. I'm honestly looking forward to any new upcoming games from DC because I really want to play one of those again, especially with the new graphics. I mean, they're probably going to come out for PS5, and which is normally what I usually play the PlayStation games, but I have nothing against Xbox. I just never really was brought up using Xbox except for the 360.
Yeah.
But especially now, like I really want to see the graphics that they're going to have for these games.
100%. Because have you seen like the
Miles Morales.
Yes, thank you.
So good. I watched the story on YouTube.
Yeah.
Someone go through it. It makes me want the game even more just seeing how good it looks.
It's visually stunning, and I can't believe we didn't mention that before. But I guess that's something we would save for, like our conversation on past projects from both companies. But
right.
We'll see if we have some time for that. But you were saying, like, yeah, it's visually stunning. And I know there were a lot of people, like, disappointed that it wasn't as full of a game as the original PS4 one.
Yeah, I did hear that too.
It was like a spin-off, which is still visually impressive. And I think it's good to have. I think it was good for them to come out with a spin-off, essentially, of the PS4 Spider-Man to see, okay, this is what the PS5 can do in terms of graphics and all that. Now we can start working on the proper sequel, knowing what we're getting into.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that they tied it in with the first Spider-Man game not the first Spider-Man game, but of the Spider-Man PS4 one.
Right.
I appreciate that they did that because now it kind of opens it up with more stuff to add on in the future with new games, especially like how they bring in the villains that Spider-Man in the Spider-Man PS4 defeated. They brought it back into the new one where Miles had to come in and rescue him, or else they would have like killed Spider-Man or really harmed him. Right. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like they just brought Miles Morales out of the blue. They teased him at the end of the first game. So it was completely justified to have a spin-off of him to test the new system and also further develop the story.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's I just can't wait to play it. I need to get the PS5.
Yeah, how is like that going? Because last I heard of it, like supplies were pretty low. Like a lot of stores weren't accepting like to stock them because they didn't want large crowds gathering. So like how easy is it to find nowadays? Because it's been a few months after its initial release.
Right. Yeah, I think it was released in sometime November or September. Around there.
Somewhere around there. Yeah, I believe like October, November, maybe.
Yeah, probably sounds about right. I just know it's really hard to because
Yeah.
I've been looking for one. Not necessarily I'm going to buy it right away. I just want to know like if I can get my hands on it anytime soon.
Right.
But
Yeah, exactly.
they're all out of stock like everywhere. Even Sony's PlayStation's website, they don't even have it available. I don't think at the moment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I could be wrong about now, but I know previously when I looked, they
Right.
didn't have it available at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I mentioned this in one of my previous episodes when I was talking about video games, but like, I'm kind of glad I got this PC when I did because there's no really temptation or even interest in me to even look in getting one of the next gen consoles because I already spent money on something that I'm going to use not just for games, but I can also double as like school stuff and art. And as a fellow animation major, you really need a good system for that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We've reached the end of our show now, but we've got a lot more to talk about. So, if you're interested, make sure to join us next week when we continue talking about this. Instead of the current trends, we're going to be talking about past Marvel and DC projects and going into a little game called Copycat, in which we compare DC and Marvel characters and find out who copied whom. But before we reach the end of the show, we have to do the all-important Royalty Recommends. Welcome to Royalty Recommends, the end segment of the show where me and my guests both recommend one thing to our audience. And, as always, the guest gets first privilege.
Just recommend anything.
Anything you enjoyed in the past week?
Oh boy. Uh, oh gosh. Anything in the past? It has to be in the past week, or anything that I've done in the past week. It could have came out a while ago.
Yeah, anything.
Oh gosh. Let's say. I guess music. Okay. How about this? I recommend. This is not something that I recommend listening to or play. It's something I recommend that everyone should do. I recommend everyone should start taking a use of social media and YouTube and TikTok because probably right now is the best time to do it when people are home and not away because more people are on it. So I suggest you should, dabble in that and start maybe a YouTube channel or something because who knows, it could go a long way.
That is very true. I don't know about similar, but my Royalty Recommends has something to do with what we've been discussing this entire hour. It's a YouTube channel called New Rockstars, and I mentioned them at the beginning of this episode, just not by name, but they're the group that does all the breakdowns of films and stuff, and they're huge Marvel and DC people, all of that. And they've been doing not only breakdowns of each episode of WandaVision, but also like talk shows, kind of like what we have here, except solely focused on WandaVision. So like, what did the new episode drop today? Midnight, maybe?
Something like that.
Yeah. They had a reaction video up, like before I even woke up today, they had it out, reacting to this new episode and what they're talking about. And they're huge comics people, so they have a lot more insight than I have. So they can go into a lot more detail and like, okay, this is what this means. This is what this is a reference to. And I find that really interesting because like I said at the beginning, I don't know a lot, so I can't pick up on everything. And I'm not always looking in the background for clues. So to have somebody point things out, be like, this could mean this could lead to being the main villain. I'm like, interesting. Writing it down.
Yeah. I feel bad. My recommendation wasn't anything related to what we were talking about.
No,
So
it doesn't have to be. Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right. Otherwise, I was going to say check out Corridor Crew because they do the same thing, kind of what you're talking about.
Yes. If you are interested, Corridor Crew. Well, if you're big into visual effects like CG, 2D animation, all that kind of stuff, then Corridor Crew is definitely a good one to look at, because not only are they really inspiring, but they're also funny, informative, and they've got something coming out where they're making a whole bunch of different shows on like different things, some storytelling, some tutorial stuff. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested, like, I'll put that as a second royalty recommends from the both of us. Definitely check those guys out.
Yeah, highly recommend them.
But that is going to do it for part 1 of our Marvel v DC Battle of Ultimate Epicness. Stay tuned next week to find out the thrilling conclusion of this saga. And be sure to stay tuned for the rest of WMSC and have a maximum week. We will see you both next time. Goodbye.
See you.